Hello again, I'm Andy from Iconic Studios and I'm joined again by Jo, who's helping me shoot these videos.
Yes, I've come back again, third time.
Yeah, but you've been asked to be put in the game.
I know. What a compliment, thank you. But I'll not spare you the embarrassment of having my face in the
Don't be
game.
silly, honey. Right, so today we're going to have a look at the location phase, which is where we basically have all the story. We've already had the sort of actions where you're doing stuff. We've had the sort of combat and the response to those actions in the response phase. And now we're in the location phase where the things take place in the environment. Okay, so there's a few different areas that you can inspect, encounter and experience different storylines, and also this is your opportunity to sort of deposit items and to make the resistance more likely to win by giving them more support for the final assault. So first of all, let's start by looking at how you encounter a location in the location phase. First of all, just a quick reminder, if you're starting on the same space as an enemy, you can't take part in the location phase, purely because the enemies are hunting for you and there's nowhere to rest or hide or have a normal story when that sort of thing is going on. And also to remind you, if you've had an unsuccessful PvP encounter, you're licking your wounds and trying to survive, so you wouldn't be able to have a location encounter at this point. However, for the sake of this today, we're going to have Dixon over at the Cheap Hotel, and we're going to complete his first story encounter. So first of all, you need to look at the map for the area that you're in, and you can see that Dixon's currently in the downtown redevelopment area, which is a blue map. So you need to find the corresponding blue deck of cards, which looks a lot like this deck here. So this deck here has the map sort of background detailed on it, and it also has Polaroids of the locations, including the Cheap Hotel. And then we have a little story, which is then detailed through here. So you have a construction site, thrift stores, and the Cheap Hotel. So we're going to cover the Cheap Hotel story. Jo, do you want to just take that off me and have a read?
Yes, thank you. So what we've got here, you can see we've got the Cheap Hotel. Guests are gathered watching TV in the hotel bar. You know that the resistance have been broadcasting messages and you spot an opportunity to bring the truth to more people. Test tech.
Okay, so we're now going to have to test Dixon's tech. He's currently got 2, and considering how good he's been rolling, this is going to be quite interesting. That old 50-50 chance. Because it's a location, we only need to get 1 success. So let's have a look at rolling Dixon's tech. Right, so like we were saying, Dixon has 2 for his tech. Just to remind you, these are the dice. We have 3D printed these for the sake of these videos. However, the finished versions will have a blue kick-ass, a white kick-ass, and all the chew bubblegum will be sort of a yellow colour. However, you've got to make do with what you can in sort of isolation and times like these. You can't get toilet paper, but you can 3D print dice at home. So, you know, the right spirit to have, I guess. So let's have some good luck, and hopefully Dixon is not going to be completely useless as usual. And we have a kick-ass. Great. Dixon has successfully passed that with a kick-ass. Let's have a look at what the resolution is. Jo, let's have a look.
Oh yes, so pass is with some slow and careful turning of the frequency dial you find a direct feed to the resistance broadcast. Some of the viewers seem captivated, gain +1 ally card.
Okay, so the way that you gain an ally card is very simple. You go through the resistance stash deck until you find the first ally that's available, and then reshuffle the deck. So let's have a look. ID card, Preacher. I don't know how he was watching the telly, but maybe he was listening to it, okay? So you then get the Preacher and he joins you. I will just say as well that the Street Preacher doesn't take a slot. He's somebody who follows you around as an ally card. So that's how you encounter a named location. Let's talk about moving on to a generic location. Obviously, it's quite easy to work out where you are with a named location. However, a generic location is one of these spaces like number 7 just up here. So let's move Dixon there and have a look at what would that entail. So for generic locations, we have a split deck which cover all of the maps, and they're sort of stories that take place, or that could take place anywhere rather than somewhere specific. So for this, we have this really cool split deck like this. Now, this split deck has all 4 map locations on there, and it also has a split of 2. Now, the way that this is split up is the nicer looking paper, sort of for the more affluent, richer areas. Okay, so you'll see little bits of the yellow map on the side and little bits of the pink map on the side. Most people, that's there just to remind you if you need it, but most people will know that the sort of nicer looking paper is for that nicer side of the board. Whereas the sort of tattered, sort of downtrodden kind of paper has little bits of the blue map and little bits of the green map on it. So if you're in either of those sections, you would read these stories for your generic locations. So I'm just going to pass this card off to Jo, and she's going to have a read.
So as you can see, we've got desperate times. You are grabbed from behind and dragged down a dark alleyway. The man pushes you to the floor, then stands over you ready to strike. Give me everything you've got, he shouts, looking more desperate than dangerous. Test combat.
Dixon is currently at a 4 for combat. So he's been levelling up throughout the game. So that means we're going to use 4 of the dice. And he only needs 1 success. So he's got a good chance, in theory.
Fingers crossed.
He won the last few.
Yeah.
We have a kick-ass. So there we go. Dixon is successful. Let's see what the positive result of that is.
So, with your pass, 1 swift kick to the groin is enough to stop him. As you flee, you steal his weapon. Gain a weapon card.
Oh, nothing quite like a kick to the groin.
Oh, yeah, kick to the groin and
so
then you get a gun.
Yet again, we'd go straight to this deck and hopefully there's a weapon on the top. As luck would have it, there we go, another Federal 45 to replace his old one. So you would then acquire that, and then you'd be able to reorganise at a later turn to put that in your hand if you needed to. There is another type of sort of location thing that you can experience as well, and that is furthering Dixon's personal story. So in this instance, the next card on the top of Dixon's personal story file looks like this, and you'll see that the thrift store image actually appears on the back of the card. So if Dixon was at the thrift stores, he would be able to have a choice of, does he encounter a blue card from the blue deck to encounter the location and experience what that is, or does he try to further his personal story and level up? Now, previously, we've seen what the personal story cards look like in the action phase, and you would turn that over, and exactly the same as the location, you would read the relevant story and complete the test with a pass or fail response. We're not going to spoil all the elements of this story, though, because there is quite a lot of cool little things in there that we want people to experience for the first time. So in these instances where there are areas that you can explore as part of your personal story, it will be displayed on the back of the relevant card. We're now going to discuss what you do with billboard locations. Billboard locations are our way of sort of highlighting where the resistance hideouts are going to be. Okay, so one of the first things that you can do is what we call building the resistance. So this is paying in allies and assets and equipment and weapons to make your final assault easier. All you need to do to achieve this is to be on the relevant space and to have item cards in your possession. So in this instance, Jacqueline is there. She says, right, I've got 3 cards in my hand, like so, and I want to pay those in to the resistance. That is literally all she needs to do for this turn. She doesn't encounter or have anything to do like that. She's just literally deciding what cards she wishes to pay in. Hopefully, Jack has used her glasses and inspected the items to make sure that they're the correct items that the resistance need. If she hasn't had the opportunity to do that, she may be paying them in blind in the hope that they are good items for the resistance to use. Or if she's an invader, she might be deliberately planting sabotage at this point. You can only pay in between 1 and 3 cards when you're building the resistance. For the sake of this demonstration, I've moved Dixon down to the Resistance Billboard location. What I'm wanting to do is to complete one of his further actions, which is called Gather Resources. So the way that you do this is you essentially barter using your influence with the Resistance stash. Think of the end of the movie where Nada and Frank go to the Resistance location and they end up speaking to them and gathering weapons and everything like that. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at his influence stat, which is currently at 3. And for every success that we manage to roll, which is always interesting with Dixon, we'll then gain a card. So let's have a roll of this and see what we can achieve. So we have 2 Kikasas, so he's done quite well for a change. Well done, Dixon. So we get 2 cards, so we'll acquire another Federal 45. As I say, there's 8 of these in the game, and we've acquired a human cop who's obviously a friend of the Resistance. So they're really useful, and he can acquire them and either walk around and use them, or alternatively, he may decide that he wants to pay them in, but he cannot do this on the same turn. He would have to do this on the following turn. This is to stop people essentially living at the Resistance outpost, continually rolling against, and then paying items straight in. So you can do this as a team potentially, but you would need to work out some way of trading. So there is a process that has to be completed. So the final thing that you can do at a Resistance billboard is what we call check and deploy resources. So what we're essentially doing is we're looking through the resources that have been acquired at this location, and we're going to sort through them, and whatever's suitable we're going to pay through to the Resistance resource space, which is up here next to cable 54, and that will have our supply of all our people that we've negotiated with and become friends with, all the assets that have been paid through, and certain things that will have been put through as rewards for completing certain events. So let's have a look at how this is going to work. So the next stage is to pick the cards up from under the billboard as part of your checking and deploying your resources. What you then need to do is replace your billboard, and then you get the cards. Now what I would say with the cards is quite important is to make sure that you just got to keep an eye on what the order of the cards were when they were picked up, because this might give you a hint to who might be evil invader or who might be paying in stuff incorrectly. So you have 4 cards that have been paid in this instance. I'm just going to hand these to Jo so she can use her glasses and sort through them. So Jo, what have we got?
So it seems to me we've got 1 of the human, 2 of the invader, and then a blank one.
Okay, so the blank one is a deliberate thing. That means that this item is an item that doesn't have an allegiance. So if we just quickly pull that one out of there. This item is a ration pack, which doesn't have an allegiance either way, but also is essentially completely useless to the end game. It doesn't have any bonuses in the top corner to indicate that that it'd be any use. So somebody's been playing this and paying this in as trash to kind of fill up the Resistance bank. So that's questionable. And then the other cards, we've got the Federal 45, which is the first one, and we've also got 2 bad ones. So my suggestion would be, considering that this card here was in the middle, whoever's paid these last 3 cards in has most likely been an invader or been paying them in completely blind. Either way, I'd be asking questions over the player who was playing as Jack. So your role as the person using the glasses and inspecting these items is to decide what to keep and what to get rid of. This will also depend if you're playing as an invader yourself or if you're playing as a human. A human would most likely take the positive weapon and pay that straight in to the Resistance resources and discard the rest of the weapons. A person playing as an invader would discard the positive card and pay in the negative cards. So for example, right now, let's just take these glasses away. Dixon, we're going to play as a human. So to do that, we're going to take the positive card and we're going to place that straight into the Resistance resources pile up top. And we're going to take these 3 negative cards and we are going to place these in the discard pile. And that right there is how you determine what you are paying in and what you are not paying in. When you place these cards in, you also want to make sure that they are face down. That will prevent anybody seeing if you are an invader or if you're paying in anything. For example, the ration packs. If you wanted to pay in trash, you need to make sure that they're face down. So anytime that you look through these cards and you decide what's good and what's bad, you should be doing that when they're only seen by yourself when you're playing. The very final thing you can do in the location phase is activate the final assault on Cable 54. When the time comes and the clock has turned to red, if the leader of the resistance, i.e. the player with the resistance leader token, has made it to Cable 54, in their location phase, rather than encountering the area, they can activate the final assault. They do this and all players are then drawn to that final assault. This means it is very important to make sure that the person who has the resistance leader token is trusted. If they are an invader, they may choose to activate the final assault early, leaving the rest of the team unprepared for the assault. Now, you can activate the final assault at any point after 18, because in 17 it's white and then it moves over to 18. So as soon as things hit red, it means that you can activate that assault. No matter what, if you are human or invader, before you activate that assault, it is very important to make sure that you have a stash of equipment in your resistance resources, and that includes any converted enemy tiles. Thank you very much for watching this video. We have one more phase to cover and the final assault. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.